Hey, what's going on guys, it's Bagas here, and since the last essay video I did focus on what aspects make a dinosaur documentary good, today I thought we'd do the opposite. What makes a dinosaur documentary bad? Now, as with the previous and pretty much all of my essay type videos, this is subjected to my personal opinion and perception, and especially this one since what I consider bad may differ to another's opinion. But like last time, I also based this on a pattern found within my lower ranking documentaries. Also, bad is a very strong word. And just so we're clear, when I say bad, I'm not necessarily saying it's god awful or something. It's just the word I chose for the title, and like maybe with one or two exceptions, the documentaries I mention are not inherently bad, but just have aspects that drag it down a bit. Also, it is very obvious that what makes a dinosaur documentary bad can be attributed to the opposite of the good list, and that's true, but in this video I'm going to go over different factors to keep it unique and not repetitive. Well, with that girthy intro segment out of the way, let's get on with it. Let's start off with a more general topic, a documentary being boring. Now, I should preface that what is considered boring is very subjective from person to person and depends entirely on what one person considers to be entertaining. But a piece of media being boring is something universal that while individually what we perceive as boring is different, the end result is still boring. And so I'm going to go with that perception of boring as the main focus of this segment. As a piece of media meant to be watched by a wide range of audiences, having entertainment value is very important at attracting an audience to actually view the product. If a piece of media doesn't have a lot of entertainment value to it, more likely than not a lot of people are going to see it, and the few who do are very niche. Let's take Dinosaurs Alive for example. It is a very science-focused documentary, which is a good thing, but it's at the cost of not having much else in it that the general audience can enjoy regardless. The few dinosaur scenes it has give very brief entertainment that doesn't last. Due to this, most likely the only people who find genuine entertainment within it are the people who want to learn something and enjoy the science aspect, which again can result in a very niche viewing. Now, in this case, it is a compromise for focusing on the science, which, as I repeat again, is a good thing, but it needs to be balanced so to prevent the audience from growing bored and still be engaged with the film. And this is a personal opinion, but I think that if your audience is more engaged with the film, they will want to pay more attention to it and therefore actually absorb a lot more information that is being told in the film. Another example of a boring documentary that was caused by a different reason is The Ultimate Guide T-Rex. Like Dinosaurs Alive, this documentary focused fully on the science, more so than Dinosaurs Alive actually. And just like it, that aspect leads to it being boring to watch as there's not a lot that can get you invested outside of the science. However, The Ultimate Guide T-Rex shows this approach out of necessity. Being made at a time before Along with Dinosaurs, it doesn't have the same technological capability of newer documentaries. So in that department, I'll give it the benefit of the doubt. It did the best with what it had and chose to focus on its strengths, but that doesn't change the fact that it can be pretty boring to watch. Again, what makes a dinosaur documentary boring is very subjective because people find enjoyment and entertainment in different things. But we also tend to agree on what is considered boring, and thus a documentary that has that element to it won't be considered among the best, especially not as a piece of media meant to be watched and enjoyed. On to a more specific topic, over-editing is most commonly found with newer documentaries. It's very self-explanatory. An over-edited documentary tends to have way too many gimmicks and it results in the opposite effect of what those gimmicks were intended to do. This often results in the audience being desensitized to it and the gimmicks just become visual noise with less significance beyond it just being there. A minor example of this is Dinosaur Revolution. The paleontologists within the show have this blue holographic filter and fade in and out of their speaking parts, which are completely unnecessary gimmicks that doesn't look cool or have any positive effects at all and instead just detracts from what the paleontologists are actually saying, because the gimmick just end up being distracting to the audience from what is actually important. The show also has these dramatic transitions between segments which are again unnecessary and have no effect except just being flashy. Now, a more prevalent example of over-editing is Planet Dinosaur. Throughout the show, you have a bunch of gimmicks from white outlines tracing around the dinosaurs to these tabs, I guess you could say, containing pictures and diagrams. And granted, some of these are meant to convey the science, and they actually do make the science more interesting and entertaining to watch for the general audience. But the problem is that it's used way too much. Editing gimmicks can work within a documentary if you use them conservatively and in the right places. This method ensures that they will have the desired effect. If you use them way too often and all the time, like in Planet Dinosaur, it'll just become visual noise that by the 10th time of the audience seeing it, the effect is lost and just again dissolves back to visual noise. However, Planet Dinosaur is an interesting case because not only does it have way too many editing gimmicks and uses them way too often, but you could also say the cinematography and the general look of the documentary are also over-edited. Throughout every scene of the dinosaurs, there's a constant pan, zoom in, zoom out, quick wipe, or some other movement trick that, while in theory makes the shots feel dynamic, there's no stationary shots to compare it to, and therefore it just ends up making it feel static and indifferent. A lot of dinosaur documentaries use editing gimmicks, and they can work if you use them with specific intent. If you haphazardly use them to simply create flash and maybe provide more entertainment, it's not gonna work. And I know this contrasts with the previous topic, but that's just it. Everything within a documentary has to be put there with a specific intention to elicit a specific reaction and effect from the audience. That's why a lot of the ones that work are conservative, as the audience can tell that the filmmakers want to specifically use them to convey this specific purpose within the documentary. But if you don't do that, it becomes needless, unnecessary, and most importantly, turns into visual noise that doesn't elicit the wanted reaction from the audience, but instead just elicits indifference. Now, this is the topic that I'm almost 100% sure you expected me to talk about. This is the problem that plagues a lot of modern dinosaur documentaries and is the main detractor of the genre as a whole. Now look, I've said it before and I'll say it again, creature violence is very, very marketable. A big bloody battle to the death between two creatures is a surefire way to get a wide range of audiences. And so I understand why documentaries may choose to take this path, but that's exactly the problem. Because it's so marketable, because it's so attractive to a general audience, a lot of filmmakers believe that this is the only way to get people to watch it. It overshadows the other aspects that made a lot of the older documentaries good, because it's the thing that's gonna be directly in front of the audience's faces. People love conflict. Whether causing it or watching it, violence and conflicts are what gets people's attention. So when a show is advertised as this battle between two opponents, it's gonna sell and it's gonna spread like wildfire. Creature violence distills the documentary down to the stereotypical monster battles that dinosaurs were associated with before the 2000s. It ultimately detracts anything else the documentary has to say, because what people will remember and take away from it is the bloody battles. Monsters Resurrected is a prime example of this. Throughout the sixth episode, the main topic is how one creature could kill another. This results in a lot of scenes of creature violence. In fact, 99% of the dinosaur scenes are related to creature violence. This makes the scope of what is covered very shallow, and as a result, doesn't have much of a lasting impact other than the fact that it's a dinosaur show with creature violence. It has no other identity associated with it, it's just violence. This is at the cost of the creatures not being accurately depicted, and instead of just bloodthirsty monsters that only purpose is to kill. Our knowledge and perception of dinosaurs has progressed so much beyond the typical movie monsters. And so it's very disappointing and saddening that these tropes still exist, in documentaries no less, pieces of media that are supposed to be educational. But is there any good within this? Can a documentary have their cake and eat it too? Well, they might. A lot of older documentaries have action scenes that can also have creature violence, but they kept it brief and limited to certain sections to not only make them more memorable, but also don't overshadow the rest of the documentary. Out of all the problems I've discussed within this video, this is the most significant one. It is the trap that seemingly more and more dinosaur documentaries are falling into. The only thing I can hope is that for the future, documentaries can learn from the mistakes of old and lead the knowledge of dinosaurs into a brighter future. So what can we conclude? Well, for starters, you need to ensure that your documentary isn't at all too boring, as this could mean that your audience isn't effectively absorbing the information you're presenting. You also want to be conservative with your editing gimmicks. Finally, if you want to put creature violence, please use it effectively and wisely as well, so to not overshadow the rest of the documentary. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, be sure to leave a like and subscribe. And if I'm being entirely honest, this whole video could have just been about the creature violence bit. Like, I'll be honest, I'm pretty sure I'm almost 100% sure I can make a whole nother video just ranting about creature violence, because it's such a real problem within documentaries that more and more are seemingly falling into, and I don't know. It's something that I don't want the future of dinosaur documentaries to become, so that's really why I made this video, to kind of, to any aspiring filmmakers who want to make a dinosaur documentary, please avoid any of these things, because I think the genre of dinosaur documentaries deserves a lot better and deserves a lot more attention, a lot more good attention, that is. But yeah, I don't really have much else to say. I've been very passionate throughout this video, especially in the creature violence part. My voice is dead, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.